Welcome to the Rising Consciousness Show, 20 minutes of soulful insights and powerful tools to elevate your life experience and create with higher clarity, intention, and vision. I'm Tara Antler, intuitive healer and soul coach.
And I'm King Gabriel, spiritual teacher and practitioner. And we are the co-founders of Ascension Academy of Light,
a global center for spiritual growth, intuitive healing, and soul alignment.
Get ready to blast off.
Welcome back, everybody. So grateful to be here. And I have an amazing special guest, a soul sister, friend, and peer that I am so excited for you guys to connect with and hear a little bit about her story, because we're going to be talking about this process of reinvention when we go through changes in our life. And we have seasons, we have cycles. We were just talking off camera how I'm in a completely different cycle and season where I still have little ones, where we're like, we will film in our kitchen because we can. And I said, I wish I could. It's like a party going on in there right now. So I'm so grateful to be here to have this conversation. Maria, thank you so much for being here today. I am so grateful. I know you and I connected through Kelly Roach and that community. And I feel like, when you meet these people where it's like that soul sister vibe, where you just know and you feel and you've got the chills and you got the whole connection. This is what happened with Maria and I when we connected. And I love her energy and her presence, and I love what she's up to. And Maria, can you please officially introduce yourself to everybody? Because you have such an incredible story and journey and vast background with so much wisdom to share with our community. I'm so grateful that you're here.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for being my friend. So I am really honored to be here today as I am sitting in my kitchen at the Jersey Shore. And I just wanted to share with everyone, guys, listen, I'm an OG. Tara's younger. She's got little kids. My kids are grown. They're 22 and 16. And I've been around for a while. I've been an entrepreneur 38 years, and I can't even believe, because I'm like, well, I better stop telling people that, because they're going to figure out how old I am. So it's like, just a quick recap. I started my first business as a hairdresser, salon owner, at 19 years old, because I could not conform to what everybody else was doing. And I just couldn't have a boss. I mean, I was an insubordinate, quite frankly. But I knew at a young age I had this intuition, this vision. I'm like, you know what? I want to do things my way. So that journey has brought me to 3 decades of entrepreneurship. And as I evolved and grew and so many things in my life happened, I started to really work on my inner game, on my healing. I tapped into my angels. I tapped into my intuition. And a whole other piece of my business evolved, because I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to hide this. I'm going to talk about this. And that is how my consulting practice was born. So right now I still own an organic salon in New Jersey. I have a plant-powered hair care line called Bella Max Beauty in honor of my children, Bella and Max. And I run my consulting practice. So that's where I'm at.
Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here like mouth jaw. I'm like, I had no idea. That's incredible. I got to make sure I post the links below, because honestly, I love organic and I love supporting like more natural. And so I got to post some links below, because I'm also always looking. And I always think to myself, I wish my hairdresser would use more natural products, just knowing, and right, what some of these things can do to our body and our hair and whatnot.
Right.
So this is fabulous.
Well, we'll get off the topic of like business and reinvention. So 20 years ago, I wound up with all these autoimmune diseases, all these weird things, inflammation, Hashimoto's, all this crap. And I'm like, what is it? So my doctor at the time was like, I think it's the chemicals. He's like, you're in a salon, you're touching chemicals. So make a long story short, this is how the reinvention, the first one, came about for me. I was like, there has to be another way. So I found these Italian color line from Italy. And if anybody wants any of this information, just DM me on Facebook. I will send you the info to send to your hairdressers globally.
I'm going to send it to my hairdresser.
Yeah, absolutely. So I found this product, and I used to have it shipped from my aunt here. And that was my first, it was an explosion of a niche that didn't exist. So that I'm doing that now 20 years. And of course, now the products are available in the United States. Yes. Are they more expensive? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I personally was so obsessed with the fact, like, I don't want hormone disruptors on my body, and neither did my clients. So that was the first reinvention. Then the second one came, both my children have these crazy anaphylactic nut allergies that totally like blew my mind, disrupted my life, and made me lose my mind as a young mother because I'm like, what the hell is going on? That is then how I developed Bella Max Beauty because I'm like, I had to be careful. Shampoos could have almond oil, shampoos can have macadamia nut oils. While those are great for most people, but if your kid has an anaphylactic nut allergy, it became such a nightmare. So that was another reinvention. And then the consulting business was my third reinvention because after I had unfortunately gotten divorced from my children's dad and I went through a really rough time of evolution, growth, loss. I had to figure out a plan B because I was like, what happens if I can't run a brick and mortar? What happens if I physically can't do this? So that is how my consulting business, Maria Fontana Consulting, came to be because everyone was constantly picking my brain, Tara. How did you do this? How did you do that? So I'm like, okay, guys, let me let me do this and figure out how to package it up. So those are all parts of the reinvention.
That's so powerful. And I love because you seem to, even though I'm sure there's was some nitty gritty stuff that you went through, but
Oh yeah.
just seeing you, you seem to move through it gracefully at the same time. Because it's like you followed that natural, like, okay, so here's what we're presented with. This is just what we're going to do now. And that then you did it, which I think is so powerful because I think a lot of times people sit on those, like people get the nudge, they get that little like tap, tap, tap on the shoulder or the thrust forward, but then they freak out because it's like you and I were talking about us starting a YouTube channel, right? It's got to look perfect, make it look this way. What are we going to talk about? Whereas I could have just flipped on the camera, like we've talked about taking perfect action from Kelly, right? And just go for it. And I think that's a missing piece for a lot of people sometimes that holds them back is that they get these nudges or they get that like something's changing. What's next? Got to do something. Whatever the life circumstance is, I think people stop themselves right there instead of just doing the thing. Can you expand upon that a little bit? Because it seems like you just go for it.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie and tell anyone listening that I don't have my own anxiety, that I did not have depression after my first daughter was born, that I did not go through that dark hour of the soul, whatever the heck they call it. I just call it the shit hit the fan. That's what it was to me. And I'm like, and that's when I had my awakening. And what that meant to me was I had to really start working on my inner garbage and healing things that were blocking my hearing that voice, my intuition, because I always had like these downloads, like someone was telling me something in my ear and I'm like, what? Well, that doesn't make sense. I'm not listening to that. It's my humanness resisted that till I hit rock bottom. So I give my daughter Isabella all the credit because I hit rock bottom after she was born by no fault of her own. It just was the sequence of how it went down. And it made me start working on myself. So why am I telling you this? Because there were days that I was like, what the hell am I doing? I lost my home. I had to go through bankruptcy. Like there was a dark period where I really was so mad at myself because I'm like, how can this happen to me? I have my crap together. How could this have happened to me? But it was the best thing that happened because it made me do the inner healing. So by doing the inner work at the time, I found a wonderful healer. She was a therapist, but God knew what he was doing. The universe delivered this perfect person who really was more than a therapist. She was a healer. She was an energy person. And she started to talk to me about things. And then I just said to her one time, I connect with angels. And it just opened up this is 25 years ago now this started. So the point of all this is, at that point, I started to realize if I don't take intentional action to start changing things for myself, no one's going to do it. And I'm a risk taker by nature. Like, I'm just like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Like, I've been through the worst. Like, people are like, oh, afraid of doing this. I'm afraid. I'm like, well, listen, I've been through it all except dying, basically. And I don't know, I'm still standing. Like, do the YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel in my kitchen the first time doing hair, 8 months pregnant. I didn't know what I was doing. We didn't have iPhones then. I think I had like this little camera. So the point is, it's doing it, but you have to love yourself enough and connect with your intuition. So I believe my soul, Tara, tells me what to do. And whenever I don't listen, that's when I go awry. So if it's like, no, this thing you're offering is not good, cancel it. I just listen now. I don't question it. No, I don't feel like doing that with this person anymore. Done. You know, that's the key, but doing the healing work, the meditation, the work you do that I did for myself is what changed my life. And I didn't come from that background. I came from hardcore immigrant Italians, no, just cut and dry, like work on yourself, your feelings. What? Like that doesn't even exist. So it's really funny because I did the work anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what changed my life and business.
That's really powerful. I'm laughing because it's so true. There's so many friends that I have that are Italian. It's the same, exactly what you just said. We don't have time for that. You gotta go, you just keep going. And I think that there is a generation that is still like that. My parents are like that too, where it's like, you just keep going. I have that a little bit. You're like, you just keep going until you realize I gotta stop for a second and pause and do that internal work. And I love that you said you listen and you don't even negotiate with your soul anymore. You're just like, if this is what's coming in, this is the answer. This is the truth. There we go. And the rest you leave, because I think we save a lot of time and energy when we do like that.
Yeah. And sometimes I would say more than not, the whisper of the soul, like my GPS, my intuition, my higher self, whatever the heck you want to call it, it's all the same thing. It sometimes sounds so absurd what it tells you to do. It doesn't make sense. But then afterwards, I'm like, it made absolute sense. Absolutely, it was right. Anything I've done, any risk I've taken, so I'm like, how did you start a beauty brand? I didn't know what I was doing. I just did one step at a time, one product at a time. I figured it out. I'm basically self-taught, people. Like, how did I open a business at 19? I don't know. I just showed up. Like, I made mistakes. But my intuition always was like, hey, connect with this person. Hey, do this. Don't do that. And that is the secret sauce.
I totally agree with you 100%. I would say that my entire life has been guided that way is as well. And it was the same thing, like coming out of holistic college, there were many of my peers that never started their business. Some did, some knew what to do. The ones that we actually did something, part of it was because we just had this entrepreneurial fire. We were like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're just going to go and we're just going to start it and we're going to give it a go and see what happens. And I love that way too, because you learn a lot. You fall, you get back up. You're like, okay, that worked, that didn't. And you go again. And I think when you have a fire within you to create something amazing or to share something or to do something or something inspires you, or like you were saying, your life changed and something reignited. When you don't ignore that and you go for it, so many beautiful things happen. And then you do look back and you're like, I don't know how I did. It's like when we got the drop down to have babies, when we got the drop down to create a magazine, I was like, I have no idea how to create a magazine. And I just, it's like you said, one step at a time. And 7 days later, there's something appears. And I love this because I think sometimes, especially in the business and entrepreneurial world, I think there's a lot of confusion. What step to do first? What do I action? What do I not do? What do I follow? Who do I follow? There's so much now, especially, I don't know about you, but back in the day when I started my business 22 years ago, it was actually simpler.
Yeah.
We were just having websites come up at that time.
Yeah.
It wasn't even really a thing. We were making brochures and business cards. That
Absolutely.
was it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're so lucky now that we have, as I call or say, our own radio stations, our own TV channels. I love that.
I love it too. And I think there's so many resources for people now, which can be a blessing, but also can be confusing for people. So I love the simplicity that you bring as well, because I think that's really important for people to hear. And we have a lot of people in our community who have businesses or wanting to start businesses, and they're at that space where they're like, there's so much, right? And there's so much
Mhm.
sometimes distraction that inhibits the action.
Yes, it's overwhelming because
It
especially if
is
you go
overwhelming.
online, you can get bombarded from 50 million things, and then you're like, you get frozen in paralysis because you do nothing. So with my clients, I mean, for the past 16 years, what I've been helping them do in all phases of business, starting, reinventing, they're really in the health, wellness, holistic, and beauty fields. And they're
Amazing.
either, I'm helping them just kind of reinvent and tweak their brick and mortars because things change,
Right.
everything changes. There's automation, there's, what's going on in the world, business changes. And I really step in and help them align with them. What works for you in this season of life? Because, like we said earlier, you're in one season, I'm in another, right? Each
Mhm.
season comes with its simplicity and its beauty, but that's the magic I bring. And my superpowers are my intuition and fine tuning and helping people reinvent. And, a lot of practitioners, then they want to take a little branch online, but they're terrified. So I basically
Mhm.
simplified for them, like, hey, let's make this simple, but customized to them. Because I believe there's no two people that have the same
That's right.
goals, vision, lifestyle,
Mhm.
right? Like you and I, we live in
100%.
two different places. I live in
Mhm.
Italy and in New Jersey. You're in
Mhm.
Canada and Mexico. You know, everyone's got their own groove,
That's right.
but it's simplicity. Like I help
Mhm.
entrepreneurs really figure out how can you, with simplicity and intuition, like your brilliance, figure out how to make this business work. And I can assure you guys, anyone listening, you can do it.
Mhm.
Anybody can do it. As long as you really, if that's your intuition telling you to do it, you gotta just take action. That's my crazy Gemini. I'm just, all right,
I
do it.
love it.
What's going to happen? All right, so what? We lose some money, we fail. Let's start over. Let's try again.
Exactly.
What's going to happen?
I
Nothing.
totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I think now, if there was ever a time for people to just go for it, just go for it. Because
Mhm.
really, life goes by so fast. I mean, being in business for 30, how many? 35? What did you say? 30,
38. 38.
38. 38 years. I think about how fast 22 years has gone. And then I'm going to flash in a second and be like, there's 40 years gone.
Yep.
Time's going to keep going. Energy keeps going. So
Mhm.
what are people waiting for? You
Mhm.
know? So if it's fear, then like Maria's saying, simplify, just take a
Mhm.
step, take one
Yeah.
step, one action, go
Mhm.
for it. If it flops, it flops. You get up, you learn something, and then you
Yeah.
go again. And I think the key is to keep going. That's the beauty of that integration and
Mhm.
reinvention that you're talking about, is that
Yes.
at every phase and cycle, you've integrated everything that you've learned,
Mhm.
and then you're rebirthing and you're like, let's
Yeah.
go again.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with just doing what you want. I went from being behind a chair as a hairdresser to then just being an owner to launching a beauty brand to writing two best-selling books. Like when I said I'm going to write a book, well, you don't know how to write. I mean, I'm going to write a book. The first two I self-published, I didn't know what I was doing, but they hit bestseller anyway. You know why? Because I had something to say. So what I can tell everyone is if you want the YouTube channel, you want the podcast, you want the new business, whatever it is that you want. If it's business related or growth related, connect with me. I have a free Facebook group. The stuff I give away free, you could start your business and get rolling just with the stuff I give away free. I have a YouTube channel, podcast. It really is like my mission on this earth is. That's why I started the consulting practice. I'm like, I've got to share all this juju that I have in me. I give downloads to people. I can't control myself because I get so crazy and passionate because it's my magic. And why would I keep my magic inside me? And why should you? No.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that I really want everybody to land with that, because I agree with you. If we live this whole life and that magic that you're talking about, it stays here, to me, that's one of the greatest disservices we could do to our soul and the higher self, because
Mm-hmm.
we all came here with something to express
Mm-hmm.
and something to contribute. And
Yes.
when we all get to do that, this is what I believe is that when I talk about heaven on earth, this is the heaven on earth experience. I remember Creator giving me this idea and download when I was like 15, 16. I didn't even know what it meant and what to do with it. But they said, you're here and everybody here on the planet is here to create heaven on earth. I said, great. What does that mean? And they said, think of it like a big, massive jigsaw puzzle. And everybody has a piece of the puzzle. And in that piece of the puzzle is their genius and it's their creativity and it's their thing. And when everybody brings their piece to the table and they put that together, the whole thing lights up like a big grid and the whole world transforms. But if one person holds back their piece of the puzzle, there's a piece missing. It's like there's a spot that doesn't light up. And if we all want to create this like new, beautiful heaven on earth experience where we all get to live in joy and bliss and abundance and health and all the wonderful things, it is part of our mission and our purpose to activate that piece and to show up. So I love that you bring that forward because that is just so, it speaks to my soul. It speaks to me in terms of being able to show up and let that be lit. Because if not, like, what are we doing?
Oh my God, yes. And I have to share this part too, because it just came to me. I always say this, and make sure you give yourself some grace. Like the power of just stopping, like the power of giving yourself a effing break, the power of being nice to yourself. If you're going along doing something and you changed your mind, it's okay. That is okay. Your birthright, and this is something I had no idea till I was in my 40s and did all this work on myself. I was born to be happy and feel good. What? I had no idea. Like I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, well, does that feel good? Well, then do it. Doesn't feel good? Don't do it. And people, oh, that's so unrealistic. You can't say that. Yes, I can, because that is my reality. So give yourself some grace. Release the hold, like release that masculine, like control and do. While we do have to do, especially if you want to have a business and you want to make money. Yes, of course, there's intentional action. You know, it did just fall out of the sky for me, but I also had to let go a little bit, listen to my higher self, listen to my angels, listen to the universe, whatever it is, you know, that resonates with you, whatever you want to call it, the power that's bigger than us. And that is what really changed my life. Because then also, besides reinventing my businesses, then I wound up getting remarried. I connected with the love of my life, my soulmate, my angel on earth. Does it sound corny? Okay, maybe it does to some people, but you can have everything your heart desires. But you gotta really give yourself some grace and be like, hey, I can do this. I'm going to start the business. Give yourself permission. I'm going to rest today, whatever that looks like. And if that's the one thing I could share with anyone, regardless of where they are in their journey, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can do this.
Yes, I agree with you. I love that because the flow of that is so powerful and beautiful. And we know, right, that we don't want to go into the burnout. We don't want to go, and overwhelm happens, but then it's up to you to choose what you do with that. And I think that when you lead that way, you have the love and the energy. So the work that you're doing, yes, there's days where it feels a little harder, but when you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like hard work because you want to show up. And like you said, you want to serve, you want to empower and get this message out there to people because it's something that's bubbling up inside of you that you're like, I have to bring this forward because if I don't, it's going to be a greater disservice than me just showing up and sharing. And that then reinforces that joy. And I agree with you. And to our community, it won't seem corny at all because I think we all are signed up for the happy train, you know, like I think we all here want to feel happy and rejuvenated and embodied and living like for real our best life, not just talk about it and have it as a book title on the shelf somewhere. It's like, no, I actually want to do it. You know, and it made me think about when you're talking about writing your book. You know, the Robert Kiyosaki book, The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I remember the first time reading that book. I have it on one of these shelves somewhere. I remember first time I read it, I opened it up and I was like, man, there's a lot of spelling mistakes in here, right? Like, what was interesting to me in that observation was that it didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was grammatically correct. It didn't matter if there were spelling mistakes. And it's one of the top selling books in the world.
Mhm.
And you just go for it. And
Mhm.
I think that's that imperfect action again, right? That if you are in a space where you want to change something, whether it's something you want to grow inside of yourself,
Mhm.
your personality, or who you are, or your expression, or it's something outside, it's a business, or we have some people in our community that have like regular careers and jobs, but they want to venture into entrepreneurship, or they have an idea that they
Mhm.
want to birth.
Yes.
That bridge is beautiful and scary all at the same time.
Mhm.
And I think that it's kind of like the Robert Kiyosaki book, or like when you were talking about publishing your book, you
Mhm.
just go for it. Sometimes you do know what to do, and other times you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I also know that when you just lead from that passion and the
Mhm.
love to give and to serve and to share and to let that energy out,
Yep.
you'll find a way, you'll create a way, and you just go for it. And then you
Yep.
have to let go of the judgment of how it's all going to look in the end,
Yep.
because it's going to be perfect in however
Yep.
it shows up. And I think
Oh,
that's the beauty I see in everything that you're expressing too.
thank you.
In the reinvention, it's like reinventing the business piece, but then
Mhm.
look at the beautiful things that happen from relationship perspective.
Mhm.
They all go hand in hand,
Yeah.
right?
Because you're reinventing yourself. You're allowing a full blossom. So,
That's right.
it's like an example. I know many years ago, I met, this is an interesting story that always stuck with me. I hired a mentor when I first came into the online space, not our mentor that we know, because I
Mhm.
adore her, someone else.
Me too.
And they said
Mhm.
to me, "Oh, no, don't tell anyone you're a hairdresser, and don't tell anyone this." So this
That's
mentor wanted
odd.
me to hide who my real self, to be this phony self, and only have the business acumen, which of course you can't take that away from me. Oh, and don't talk about your intuition, and don't talk about spiritual.
So
And
weird.
after a few months, I was like, this feels so off.
Hmm.
I fired her. I deleted everything I had created, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not who I am. And
No,
that's when I decided, for many years, I did not have an online mentor, because I was like, I'm just going to do this the way I started my brick and mortars. I'm just going to be me.
that's right.
I was on, how I started my online practice. And for anyone who's scared, this is for you. I just started doing Facebook Lives back then. They just started. I did them for 100 days, and I grew my audience, and I started helping people with their businesses. And before you know it, I hit like my first 100,000 online, not knowing what I was doing. And of course, as the years went on and I got better, I started helping other people. So it was
Mm.
like, I guess where I'm going with this is, don't let anyone tell you you can't do that. Like, well, you can't be multi-passionate, Maria. Maria, you can't have three. Why not?
Exactly.
Why not? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I do. And you can too. Anyone who's thinking about changing something in their life, reinventing their hair, where they live, who they love, what they do, you can just do it.
That's right.
Just do it. I'm
Hmm.
here for you. If you just need some support, just call me, but just talk
That's
to
it.
me. You can
Hmm.
do it.
I love it so much. And where's the best place for people to find out more about you, your world,
Aw.
what you're creating? Because I know that you give so much value. I see all the bits and pieces coming out.
Oh,
Where's the best
thank
place for
you.
people to connect? And we'll put it in the show notes too.
Yeah, sure. The best place to find me is either the Maria Fontana Show on any podcast channel, also on YouTube, or just mariafontana.com. And if you put my name into Google, folks, you'll find everything. I'm all over the place. So I'm easy to find.
I love it. Make it easy for people. Make it easy
Yeah,
for people to
totally.
find. It's so
Yep.
good. Any final words that you feel called or that are intuitively flowing in that you want to share?
Yeah. So what's coming to me from spirit, really powerful, my intuition is for everyone to really every single day just listen, breathe, and tap into your soul. Your soul is not going to guide you wrong. Take those few minutes, be quiet, take that walk, go outside barefoot, journal, meditate. We didn't even talk about this, but I believe in meditation. I believe in the power that all of the inner work does. So be kind to yourself before everyone else, because nothing else matters if you don't do that.
That's so beautiful and so powerful. And we love meditation over here in our world too.
Yes. Well, everyone
It's
should know, like, you've helped me many times grow, evolve. I follow you and I adore your work. So, we're not just friends. I endorse everything you do.
Thank you so much. I
I
really
love you.
appreciate that so, so much. And thank you so much for contributing your energy, your light, your time. I'm so happy to have you here. And everybody go check out Maria's work because she is a force. I love connecting to the OGs in the space too, because there's a lot that you can learn
That's
from people
right.
who have been around in business a long time. I am a big advocate of that because one thing that I loved having entrepreneurial parents, I'll just say this, is that watching my mom and dad create business from the ground up,
Mm.
I learned a lot just by observing, just by being in their presence and being in their world. I learned a lot of what it takes to create a business and be an entrepreneur. And I think that surrounding yourself with more conversation and people in this context is really, really valuable and really, really important. And I think people need more of that right now because it simplifies everything.
Mhm.
It brings us back into, I can do this, takes us out of the overwhelm. And then you actually get to light up your peace and bring your magic, like Maria was saying, to the world, to the earth now. And I still say that now, like when people say, is it still a good time to create a business? Yeah, there's never a bad time to create business.
No,
You just
that's
go
right.
for it. And it's like Maria's saying, when you get that soul nudge, you go for it. You
Yeah.
have a great support system here. Reach out to her, connect.
Aw.
And thank you so much, Maria, for being here. I
I love
so
you very
appreciate you.
much. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I can't wait to see you again soon.